I am going to be telling you the story of the silent twins by the names of June and Jennifer Gibbons. When the girls were toddlers, they barely ever talked, but the pediatrician said that it was common for twins to be behind in communication skills compared to other children. By the time they were in elementary school, they would only say one-word sentences every couple days. Jennifer would write at the level she was supposed to, but June would not. They started to be bullied in school for not talking, which led them to become so quiet they stopped talking to their family. The mother would listen in on them, and she could hear them constantly talking to each other behind closed doors. So they could talk, but the parents said it sounded like a foreign language. They then started walking in a single line with each other. They looked exactly matched up. The feet hitting the ground at the same time, the arms swinging at the same time. They would stand up and sit down at the same time. Each bite of food and each drink would be taken at the same time. They were perfectly mirroring each other in every single movement. Stay tuned for part 2.
This is why you should never leave the table when you're on a blind date. One of my best friends and I worked at the same restaurant. When I came in later that day for my shift, she told me a crazy story. She said that her first table were this guy and this girl, and she could tell they were on a first date. The girl was nervous, so she ordered a glass of wine. As far as she knew, the date seemed to be going well, and the girl got up to go to the bathroom. Right when my friend was about to come over and bring the silverware, she saw him put something in her wine. My friend, obviously terrified and freaking out, let our manager know, who then let the police know, and ran into the bathroom to tell her what was going on. The girl ended up staying in the bathroom until the police came, arrested him, and escorted him out of the building. It was noon on a Tuesday. You don't think you're going to be drugged at noon on a Tuesday.
This is part 5 of the story of the silent twins by the names of June and Jennifer Gibbons. While hanging out with the Armstrong boys, due to the excessive drinking and substance use, the girls would be more comfortable with talking. Jennifer proceeded to lose her virginity to one of the boys, making her now different from her sister June, in the first time in their entire lives. Due to this proceeded to make both of them very angry, because they both now did not understand why their entire lives they were trying to be one together and not two separate people. Due to the anger, Jennifer attacked June in their bedroom and tried to strangle her. After they cooled off, they went on a walk, and on their walk, June then decided to push Jennifer off of a bridge. A car's headlights stopped the continued fight. That's when they realized things would never go back to how they were. The girls started to go down from there. They started breaking into places, stealing, committing vandalism. They would even report their own crimes to the police in an American accent. Stay tuned for part 6.
Am I the asshole for calling out my kid's future stepmom for treating me like a surrogate? I, 29 female, dated a guy, Joe, 30 male, for 3 months before he left me to go back to his ex, Kim. Right after we broke up, I found out I was pregnant. I let him know and he was ecstatic. Turns out his girlfriend had fertility issues and would likely never be able to get pregnant naturally, and he has always wanted to be a father. Joe was only allowed at the initial appointment because of COVID, and we found out I was having twins. According to Joe, when he told Kim, she had a mental breakdown about infertility and wanted to talk to me. I met them at their house, and Kim stated that she wanted to be involved in my pregnancy because she would eventually be the children's stepmother. She started telling me that I needed to do a home birth, that I needed to do formula feed so that they could have the babies half of the week, that she wanted one boy and one girl, and that she wanted the kid to call her mama.
Oh my God.
This is part 6 of the story of the silent twins by the names of June and Jennifer Gibbons. The police kind of just ignored their continued crimes because they weren't severe enough for the police investigation. The girls then started to get more comfortable with committing crimes, and one night they decided to light the local tennis courts on fire. The next night they burned down a tractor store, and the next night police caught the girls while they were about to light down another place. The girls were then sent to prison without bail. This is when the girls became completely silent again and started synchronizing their movements again. Their feet moving at the same time, their hands moving at the same time, them sitting down and laying down at the same time, eating at the same time, and drinking at the same time. They also started a starvation pact. One could eat one day, and the other would eat the next day. They were soon sent to the hospital, and the therapist thought it was best to separate the girls once again. This was not healthy for either of the girls. Stay tuned for part 7.
So I walk in on my cousin and my boyfriend doing the dirty on her couch. They quickly get up from the couch and get dressed. Of course, by that time, I'm in hysterics. I'm crying and yelling. My boyfriend instantly got on his knees and begged me for forgiveness. I went up to my cousin and I punched her right in the face. She wasn't expecting that. And I said, well, this is the guy that you've been dating, isn't it? She said yes, and that she was just trying to find the best way to tell me. And so she just thought the best way to tell me was to get me to walk in on her and him doing the dirty. I punched her again. My boyfriend came to her rescue, though. Instantly went into hero mode, which made me even angrier, so I punched him too. I stormed out of her house and went back to my house. Well, I told my parents everything. And my dad went over to my uncle's house, my cousin's dad, and he told him everything. She was about to turn 19, so he took away her phone and her car. And I get a phone call from my ex, come back for part 3.
Here's something fun. When you're in a long-term relationship, you'll often find yourself doing this thing with your partner where you'll say, when we have kids, I hope they have this trait of yours. And today my husband was like, I hope our kids will be as resilient and determined as you. When I was 11 years old, I got in a fight with my mum when she was picking me up from school, and I was being so rude that she wanted to teach me a lesson and scare me a little bit. So she said, you can find your own way home. Left me outside of my classroom, got in her car and drove off. Now, realistically, she was just doing the block and was going to come back and pick me up, hoping that I would be apologetic. But I wasn't. I was very stubborn and was like, I can find my own way home. And I decided to run home. I, in fact, sprinted from the school grounds and ran into a close family friend who offered to give me a lift, which I accepted, and I got home by my own means. Now, my mum did do the block and not only came back to me not being where she left me, but to one of my friends saying, yeah, I saw her get in the car with some weird guy. Imagining my mum's soul leaving her body that day is enough for me to not ever want kids, let alone kids like me.
Now, my best friend's wife is a born-again Christian, and we do not get along at all. The other day, she called me up to yell at me, saying I'm a terrible influence on her husband because he called her a bad name. I said, what? Did he call you a bitch? She said, no, Anthony. He did not use the B word. I said, uh-oh. Did he call you a cunt? She said, no. I said, well, then he didn't hear it from me.
This one here smells great. Which one? Smells like Mother's crazy sister Kate. Oh, you think so? Yeah, I do. It smells so good. She couldn't have been that crazy. I don't think so. Oh, you don't think so, huh? No. Well, she put her poodle one time in a microwave oven. To eat it? Yeah, to eat it? Oh, no. No, 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 silly, to dry it. But it exploded, and they were both found dead. She must have been out of her head. Here it is.
My boyfriend is in his car making out with another girl. I caught them red-handed. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. My boyfriend Rex quickly puts on his shirt, and the other girl puts on her shirt too. I try to open the door, but it's locked. And to my surprise, my boyfriend gets mad at me and asks me what I'm doing there. So of course I say to him, what are you doing here? That's when he finally gets out of the car, and he tells the other girl to stay in the car. I told him that he had promised to be monogamous. That's when he said that I was crazy and that he had never promised that, and that he had no intention to be serious with me. Then he said that I made that entire conversation up in my head. And then he told me to leave. I was so shocked. I couldn't believe what he had just said to me. The girl gets out of the car and she actually apologizes to me. And she told me that Rex had told her that he was single. Then Rex lunges at her, starts pulling her hair, and pushes her to the ground. Part 3 is up.
I do substitute teaching from time to time, and last week I actually had the substitute for a 7th grade biology class. So the teacher contacted me the night before to tell me what the students are learning, what their homework was and all that, and what the game plan was. So I created a list of questions to test the students on if they understood what they're learning and if they did their homework. The next day I walk into class, and as the day progresses, I tell the students, I said, I have a list of questions and I want you guys to answer them. The first question I asked the class was, what body part increases its size by 10 times when stimulated? Now all of a sudden, this girl named Kate raises her hand and says, "You are the worst substitute teacher. How can you be asking a group of 7th graders that question? You are disgusting. I'm going to go home and tell my parents and you're going to get fired." So I ignore Kate completely, but she keeps going on about how disgusting of a question this is and this and that. But all of a sudden, this little kid named Billy raises his hand. So I go, "Billy, what part of the body increases 10 times when stimulated?" And he goes, "The pupil, sir." And I go, "Correct, Billy." So I decided to go back to Kate and I say, "Hey, Kate, I have 3 things to tell you. Number 1, you have a dirty mind. Number 2, you didn't do the homework on the eye. And number 3, you're going to be really disappointed in your life."
This is why you should never ask too many questions. Once there was an old lady who was widowed and wheelchair bound, living in a house with 2 floors with her caretaker. One day, the police received a call from this old lady's house. The caretaker had been murdered. One detective was sent to investigate, where he found the caretaker's body on the 1st floor, vocal cords ripped out, lying in a pool of blood. The old lady was ruled out as a suspect because she was immobile, but
Nothing left to say, it's you and me.